hidden for more than a millennium. The Codex Animae is a 1,200-year-old Latin manuscript whose very existence challenges the foundations of modern belief. Penned by a secretive order of mystics, this ancient text once lay at the heart of esoteric traditions, mapping out the soul's journey before incarnation and revealing the choices we make, our intended family, challenges, and life purpose, long before we draw our first breath. Yet sometime in the late Middle Ages, the Codex was deliberately purged from scholarly libraries and ecclesiastical archives, not through accident, but by design. Its revelations threatened to undermine the prevailing structures of authority. By detailing the sacred stages the soul traverses, including the life review, the council of guiding spirits, and the voluntary veiling of memory at birth, the manuscript bestowed upon readers a profound self-knowledge, empowering them to view suffering as intentional growth rather than arbitrary misfortune. Those in power feared that such awareness would erode the populace's dependence on external dogma and ritual, so they suppressed and discredited the text, consigning it to obscurity. Now, however, fragments have resurfaced in private collections and hidden vaults, sparking renewed interest among scholars and spiritual seekers alike. As researchers painstakingly piece together its faded pages, the Codex Animae is poised to offer humanity not just a tantalizing glimpse into our pre-existence, but a roadmap for reclaiming agency over our own destinies. In doing so, it promises to illuminate forgotten truths about choice, purpose, and the eternal nature of consciousness, truths that could forever transform how we understand birth, death, and the very essence of who we are. The Codex Animae describes a profound and intricate journey that every soul undertakes long before its first breath, unfolding across 7 interwoven stages that together form the blueprint of our pre-incarnation existence and the gateway to true self-awareness. First comes the call of universal consciousness, a radiant and timeless invitation emanating from the very heart of all creation, whose resonant frequencies awaken within each soul a deep, almost imperceptible longing for purpose, growth, and reunion with the Source. This call, neither a command nor an imposition, arrives as a gentle yet irresistible melody, beckoning us to embark on a new cycle of evolution, to accept the opportunity to incarnate once more in the theater of physical life, and to reaffirm our role as active participants in the grand tapestry of existence. In response to this cosmic summons, the soul enters the second stage, life review, where, in a vast hall of illuminated memory, it re-experiences each action, word, and intention from all its previous lifetimes, not under the harsh glare of judgment but within a cocoon of perfect empathy and unconditional love. Here, the soul feels firsthand the impact of every act, joy merging with healed hearts, suffering blending into deep compassion, and learns that empathy and forgiveness are the twin pillars upon which true responsibility rests, freeing it from guilt and regret, and instilling the wisdom needed to make conscious choices in its forthcoming earthly life. Having absorbed these lessons, the soul advances to the third stage, the Council of Souls, a sacred assembly convened in a realm suffused with pure light and resonant harmony, where spiritual mentors, guides, and fellow souls whom we shall meet on earth gather in solemn concord. Together, they review the insights gleaned from the life review, discern the lessons still to be learned, and collaboratively design a life plan that aligns personal growth with collective evolution, meticulously selecting pivotal relationships, challenges, and opportunities that will stimulate the soul's expansion and fortify its innate gifts. From this divine counsel emerges the fourth stage, the choice of life purpose, where the soul, infused with clarity and conviction, chooses its primary mission for the imminent incarnation, whether to heal ancestral wounds, champion compassion, awaken others to hidden truths, or express creative genius. This purpose resonates deeply with the soul's unique passions and the recurring themes that have pulsed through its past lives. By defining a clear and achievable purpose, the soul secures both direction and motivation, transforming every trial into a stepping stone toward fulfilling its sacred mandate. Next, in the fifth stage, the choice of body and family, the soul enacts a precise selection of physical form, genetic inheritance, cultural milieu, and familial bonds, recognizing that each characteristic and circumstance serves as a catalyst for the realization of its chosen purpose. Far from random, this selection process takes into account the environments, social structures, and even the precise timing of historical events that will best challenge and empower the soul, demonstrating how apparent hardships, poverty, illness, conflict are intentionally woven into our life scripts to forge resilience, empathy, and greater wisdom in the crucible of earthly experience. Having meticulously crafted its plan, the soul approaches the sixth stage, the Veil of Forgetfulness, where, at the threshold of birth, it willingly relinquishes all conscious memory of its pre-incarnation deliberations, entering through a shimmering lattice of mist that conceals its divine history. This self-imposed amnesia is not a punishment, but a necessary precondition for genuine human experience, allowing the soul to navigate life's uncertainties and discover truth through direct perception rather than predestined knowledge, thus heightening the authenticity of choice, love, and discovery. Finally, the seventh stage culminates in the leap of faith known as birth itself, the most audacious act of spiritual courage, where the soul, stripped of its celestial recollections, plunges into the material world with nothing but intuition and trust to guide it. Embraced by the fragile human body and the paradoxical splendor and harshness of physical reality, the soul confronts the dual dance of joy and pain, surrendering to life's epic narrative while retaining in the depths of its being an echo of that primal call and the promise of a higher purpose. In this singular journey through call, review, counsel, purpose, selection, forgetfulness, and faith, the Codex Animae illuminates the hidden architecture of our existence and offers a transformative perspective. Far from being accidental wanderers, we are intentional architects of our destinies, guided by love, equipped with empathy, and poised to rediscover in the tapestry of everyday life the eternal spark that first answered the universal call. For millennia, the hidden doctrines of the soul's pre-incarnation journey have been systematically obscured by those who recognized their revolutionary power. Religious hierarchies, in particular, understood that once individuals realized their lives were neither random nor imposed from above, but consciously chosen in partnership with divine guides, their dependence on clerical intermediaries would evaporate. To preempt this shift, sanctuaries of learning were purged of illicit manuscripts, inquisitions were unleashed against mystics who dared to speak of the Life Review or the Council of Souls, and official creeds were carefully sculpted to emphasize obedience, shame, and fear. Simultaneously, secular rulers, ever uneasy about the prospect of self-empowered citizens, colluded with ecclesiastical authorities to codify punitive laws and propagate the notion that ignorance of one's true nature was the cornerstone of social stability. Inquisitorial tribunals, state-sanctioned book burnings, and public recantations became tools to discredit, banish, and sometimes execute those who claimed to hold forbidden knowledge of destiny, purpose, or the mechanics of reincarnation. Even when hidden fragments of these teachings survived in private collections or whispered oral traditions, they were routinely maligned as heretical or delusional, further reinforcing the narrative that only sanctioned doctrine could confer salvation, meaning, or moral authority. By monopolizing the vocabulary of the sacred, rites, sacraments, confessions, and absolutions, religious institutions ensured that the faithful remained reliant on priestly mediation, while emerging nation-states leveraged these same fears to legitimize taxation, conscription, and centralized control. Centuries of censorship and propaganda cemented a worldview in which human beings saw themselves as passive recipients of divine grace or victims of fate, rather than autonomous creators of their own spiritual destinies. Only a handful of esoteric orders preserved the original cosmology in cryptic ciphers and guarded tomes, passing them from master to initiate under the threat of persecution. Today, as these long-buried writings resurface, they pose an existential challenge to entrenched power structures. The promise of reclaiming agency over one's soul trajectory undermines the very instruments of fear and dependence that have underwritten social and religious order. No longer content to accept the narratives handed down by authorities, modern seekers are rediscovering that the greatest threat to the old guard lies not in rebellion or revolution, but in a single human, awakening to the truth that we have always been, and will always be, the architects of our own spiritual journeys. Remembering the soul's blueprint can spark a profound metamorphosis in how we navigate every facet of our lives, dissolving old assumptions and illuminating a path of conscious creation. Once we grasp that nothing is truly accidental, each encounter, each hardship, each twist of fate is woven into a larger design, we begin to see chance not as random misfortune, but as the universe's prompt for our growth, and relationships not as mere byproducts of circumstance, but as deliberate partnerships forged to teach, challenge, and uplift us. Pain, too, sheds its sting when reframed through this lens. No longer an arbitrary punishment, it becomes a sacred signal pointing toward the next threshold of learning, inviting us to transmute suffering into wisdom. Under this paradigm, obstacles shift from roadblocks into milestones, markers that measure our progress and guide us deeper into our innate power. A failed endeavor, when viewed as part of our soul's preordained itinerary, reveals hidden strengths we might otherwise have ignored. A broken relationship can expose unresolved wounds that, once healed, open our hearts to richer intimacy. In liberating ourselves from the tyranny of chance, we also release the shackles of victimhood. Gone is the sense of drifting helplessly on life's currents. Instead, we recognize that we are the architects of our own destinies, equipped with the agency to co-author our story with the divine source. This shift unleashes remarkable self-responsibility. We stop waiting for salvation from external authorities or circumstances and begin actively collaborating with the intelligence that sparked our very existence. As we integrate this blueprint, our inner narrative transforms from one of fear and limitation to one of bold aspiration and trust. We learn to lean into uncertainty with curiosity rather than anxiety, to greet adversity as an invitation rather than a threat, and to approach every relationship as a sacred mirror reflecting both our shadows and our potential. In this awakened state, life ceases to be a series of random events and instead unfolds as a coherent, purpose-driven odyssey. We step into our sovereignty, secure in the knowledge that, regardless of earthly setbacks, the grand rhythm of our soul's journey continues to pulse with love, wisdom, and the promise of ever-expanding possibility. Reclaiming the memory of who we truly are begins with intentional practices that gently pierce the veil of everyday consciousness and rekindle the dormant wisdom of our soul. First and foremost, cultivating regular moments of silence and meditation acts as a lantern in the darkness, illuminating the subtle currents of thought and feeling that ordinarily slip by unnoticed. By sitting quietly, whether for 5 minutes or an hour, attention withdraws from external distractions and turns inward, allowing us to perceive the faint echoes of our deepest self and to recognize the gentle promptings of our inner guide. Equally vital is the reflective exploration of our dreams, for the night's theater often stages symbolic dramas that mirror our soul's longings and unresolved questions. By recording recurring imagery, emotional tones, and lucid experiences upon waking, and by patiently decoding their personal significance, we gradually learn to understand the language of the unconscious and to uncover messages that point the way back to our authentic path. Beyond these contemplative exercises, we must also practice intuitive action, which means trusting those spontaneous impulses and gut sensations that surface in everyday life. A sudden urge to reach out to a friend, an inexplicable pull toward a particular project, or a visceral sense that one decision is right, even when logic cannot yet explain why. By acting on these inner signals, we affirm our role as co-creators of experience and reinforce the neural pathways that connect us to our soul's guidance system. Finally, sincere invocation, whether framed as heartfelt prayer, gentle chanting of a mantra, or a quiet moment of intention, opens a channel for communion with the Council of Souls and other benevolent guides who eagerly await our invitation. Speaking honestly from the heart and asking for clarity, protection, or inspiration establishes a loving dialogue that bathes our consciousness in support and dissolves the sense of isolation that so often accompanies the human condition. When these four modalities, silence and meditation, dream reflection, intuitive action, and sincere invocation, are woven together in daily practice, they form a powerful crucible for transformation. Silence roots us in presence. Dreams reveal hidden truths. Intuitive deeds anchor us in embodied purpose, and invocation enlists cosmic allies in our quest. Over time, the veil of forgetfulness thins, and the rhythms of our sacred pre-birth journey begin to resonate once more within the fabric of our everyday lives, guiding us toward choices aligned with our highest good, and reminding us, moment by moment, that we are far more than bodies bound by circumstance. We are eternal, creative sparks of consciousness on a deliberate voyage of awakening. At its core, the journey of awakening is a simple yet profound invitation. Will you continue to move through life in habitual conformity, or will you dare to reclaim the eternal identity that has been patiently waiting beneath the layers of social conditioning? Every day presents countless opportunities to choose between these two paths. On one hand, conformity offers a sense of safety. The familiar routines, the unquestioned assumptions, the comfortable narrative of "this is just how things are." But that safety can quickly calcify into stagnation, trapping us in roles and expectations that stifle our deepest longings. On the other hand lies the path of personal empowerment, a gradual, intentional process of small but consistent steps that reconnect us to the soul's original blueprint. It begins with moments of awareness, a pause in the morning before rushing into work, a breath taken when frustration rises, a curious look at recurring dreams, each one a gentle nudge urging us to remember who we truly are. By honoring these nudges, we strengthen our trust in the inner voice that knows our unique purpose, and we begin acting in harmony with it, even when logic and social pressures urge us otherwise. As this inner-outer dialogue grows more fluent, everyday decisions, what we choose to focus on, whom we spend time with, how we use our talents, become expressions of our authentic self, rather than reactions to external demands. Over time, these incremental choices accumulate into a profound shift. The old pattern of conformity loses its grip, and the radiant thread of our eternal identity emerges as the guiding force in our lives. In this way, personal empowerment is not a one-time event or a dramatic revelation, but a daily commitment to heed the soul's whisper, to live deliberately, and to step ever more fully into the truth of our being. By embracing this call, we transform not only our own destiny but also the world around us. Because when individuals claim their sovereign power, they inspire others to do the same.